Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ghost Biker Garage. I am your host, the Ghost Biker, and we are in for a great show tonight. If you missed last week, we did something a little bit special. We were live at Historic Rugby, and we did an impromptu investigation of the Historic Rugby Visitor Center there, the theater, which is so active. It was so cool because we had a guided ghost hunt on Tuesday night of this week. We did a special one for some ladies who were in town from Michigan and from Indiana. And the tripwire, it was going crazy during the live. Didn't even get a single hit except for whenever we asked if they wanted us to leave that room, and it went off on the stage. So that was pretty wild. If you missed that investigation, it was right around about an hour and 15-minute investigation, and we were able to ask some really cool questions. You guys came through, and again, you didn't even know it was going to be alive because I had a last minute cancellation. So I was either going to do a topic or I was going to do a live, and thought, you know what? We just opened the visitor center for folks to be able to go and visit over there at Rugby. We just got access to that for paranormal teams. And I thought, what a great thing to do, but go in and spend a little time there in the visitor center theater. And we had flashlights set up in the audience there, and they were lighting up the flashlights. We also had people on the stage. We had tripwires across the side. We had an impending storm coming in. I mean, it was a really cool active night. So again, thank you guys so much for making that a cool investigation. So if you did miss that, please go back, check it out, because it was a lot of fun, and it was really cool. So just want to say hello to the folks over here in the chat room. Thank you so much for tuning in with us tonight, and I hope you've brought your questions for tonight's guest, because she is a fascinating lady, and we're excited to have her here, and hopefully she's got a story for us and a lot of cool information. So hello to Miss Nancy Weems. Thank you so much for watching. Good evening, Miss Susan Purcell. Always a pleasure. Hello to the Walking Dead zombie herself, Miss Sonia Thompson. Daryl Paulette, I hope you're doing well. It's always a pleasure to see you, Daryl, with the Clover Hill Village up there in Appomattox. Definitely a cool place to go check out. Mr. Paul Perez, I hope you're doing well, sir. I know they've got a Paracon out there in New Mexico that they're working on, that if you are in the New Mexico area, you definitely need to check out Paul's Paracon out there, because he and his team have put a lot of work into this. And if we weren't so busy here during the month of October, we'd definitely be going out there and checking it out ourselves. And speaking there, over from the oven themselves there, Miss Janet Alm out there in Arizona, heating up the country with her, what did you say? It was 114 degrees there today in Arizona. Thank you so much for watching, Jolly Jeffers. Hello. Hello to my dear friend, Mr. Rex Nielsen. It's always good to see you. I hope you're doing well, sir. Al Cooley, hello. I need to be reaching out to you. I got your message, and I need to be reaching out to you. We got a guest spot for you to come on the show. So stay tuned for me to be reaching out to you for that. Jim Cody, it's always good to see you. Yes, we have expelled our demons here, and it's good to see you. Wow, we got a lot of people on here. Normally we, I spend the first few minutes saying hello, and so I want to make sure I catch everyone that's on here right now. PPR3C, hello to you. Miss Addie Alp, good to see you. And of course, Mr. Bob Burnell, it's always a pleasure whenever you're here on the show. I look forward to seeing you every week. Shaman Sundays, Mr. Brandon Cooper. Yes, it is the Ghost Biker, and it is the shaman himself. Hello, I hope you're doing well. Mr. James Brady, good to see you again with SLPR Paranormal and Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Eric, great to see you. We had Eric as a guest on the show a few weeks ago, and he Unseen Paranormal Podcast and the Night House. He came on, talked about his location, and if you guys are not booked up for that location, you need to go on there and get your booking in because Eric has got he's got a great location, and you guys need to check that out. And of course, Miss Kim Brady, hello. Before we get to tonight's guest, just want to talk about a few things that we've got going on. We had a great show on the Jailhouse podcast just an hour ago, live from the historic Scott County Jail. We highlighted some different pieces of evidence. Folks who have been at the jail captured some interesting things. We will be sharing more teams there. We spent the evening just kind of sitting there chit-chatting about that, promoting these teams, promoting the evidence. So go check that out on the Jailhouse Informant podcast, on the Facebook page, Historic Scott County Jail, as well as Historic Rugby After Dark. And if you're looking for a cool place to investigate, go check out historyhighwayshaunts.com, and you can book your investigation at either the Historic Scott County Jail or the Historic Rugby After Dark locations. Those are my two locations there that I co-own and co-run with Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal. And we do have some dates available. We're getting kind of booked up here for the month of August, but we do have several Fridays and several Sundays open. There might be one Saturday, but I think most of the Saturdays, you just got to go on and look at our calendar, pick your date, book it, and come have a really cool experience. And if the spirits aren't cooperating, at least you're going to get immersed in some really cool history and learn about that. So historyhighwayshaunts.com for your dates. We did announce that we're going to be doing some special things in September called Spooktember, where we're adding extra time to your investigations. So if you've got an open weekend and you'd like to come check that out, you can also find that information. We'll be announcing soon. And once you go to historyhighways.com or historyhighwayshaunts.com, you'll choose whether you want to look at the jails page or look at Historic Rugby After Dark. We have tours open all weekend long there, and we're trying to book for some of our rugby dates for the tours. So I run the North Village Cemetery Tour, and so we're really trying to get some people on tomorrow night's tour, Friday night's tour. So go on there again under historyhighwaysandhaunts.com. You can go under the Rugby After Dark and book your tour. Want to say special happy birthday to my mom. Today is her birthday, and we are I didn't get to celebrate with her today, but hopefully here coming up tomorrow this weekend. But I definitely wanted to go on, wish her a happy birthday. Couple other things here. We will be doing a live investigation this coming Sunday night at the historic Scott County Jail, and we'll be doing that in honor of, or actually in memory of Sheriff Richard Ellis, Sheriff R.D. Ellis. He was killed at the front door on the anniversary will be this Sunday night. I think it'll be 99 years since that happened. He was killed ambush style. We will be releasing a video that does have a little more information on that, so that you can go on there and be able to know a little bit more about the history. But you will be helping drive that investigation. The investigation will be live on the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and YouTube channel, and so that's going to be this Sunday night. We've not announced a time yet, but I will share all of that on my page so that you'll be able to get to that and be able to watch it there. So yeah, definitely go on and check that out. Again, that's just a few things that we've got going on there. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. If you're looking for something fun to do next Saturday night, I'm going to be part of the I think it's called Bikers Booze and Bear. It's going to be up at Octagon Hall. I'll be sharing that information out as well. It's part of the Paranormal Adventures Murder Mystery events that they have with author J.B. Coates, as well as the Boo Crew. Of course, everybody knows the legendary Bear from Octagon Hall, but we're going to be a part of that next week. We'll be sharing a little more information. So if you want to join us, there's still a few tickets available for that investigation up at the legendary Octagon Hall. So, anyways, we'll be talking about a few other things as we go throughout, but I want to go ahead and get to tonight's show. And get to tonight's guest. I don't want to keep her waiting, but I do appreciate everyone that did mention my mom, and also thank you, Bernard. I do appreciate you stopping in. We definitely need another convention in South Carolina. So, and hello to everyone at the Paranormal Research Institute. So, anyways, if you will, I know a lot of you know tonight's guest, but if you don't, I hope that after tonight's show, you will definitely go and show her some love. But if you will, please help me in welcoming the
the
author
author
and
and
storyteller,
storyteller,
Miss
Miss
LaNelle.
LaNelle. Hey, good evening.
Hey,
Hey,
I'm getting a
I'm
little
getting
bit.
a little bit.
I don't know if
I don't know
anyone
if
else
anyone
is
else is
hearing
hearing
that.
that. Yeah, it's glitching a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
Let's
see. Are
see. Are
you using
you
your
using your
phone?
phone? Yeah, but you're good now.
Oh, it
Oh,
is?
it is? Yeah, I can
Because
hear
I'm
you now.
still
Because I'm still
getting
getting
an
an
echo,
echo.
but
But
I mean, when I say
when I
something,
say
it's
something,
coming
it's
right
coming
back at
right
me.
back at me.
So,
So,
does anyone
does
else
anyone
hear
else
that?
hear that?
Okay, yeah, it
Okay,
looks
yeah, it
like,
looks like,
yeah, there's an
yeah, there's an
echo.
echo.
So it,
So it,
because it wasn't
because it
there
wasn't
when
there
we were
when we were
testing,
testing,
I'm
I'm
actually
actually
going
going
to,
to.
okay, so I just muted her mic. So it looks like it's coming from on her side there. Um, so I'm not sure. I guess what maybe I'll need to do is I'll ask you some questions, and I'm going to mute your mic when I ask the questions, cuz it's probably, if you're using a phone, it's probably coming through that way and not using headphones, I'd say.
I'd say. Okay.
All right, yeah. So in order to fix that, what I'll do, I'm not going to talk. Yeah, like Bob says, your mic is picking up your speaker. So I'll ask a few questions, but I'll mute myself, and that way we don't have the issue. But if you will, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born Marjorie LaNelle Chrisley, and I've always loved my name that my parents gave me, Marjorie LaNelle. I was named after both of my grandmothers. One was Margaret, and one was Nellie Mae. So they didn't want to name me Margaret Nellie. So my dad was stationed in Paris in the army, so he took the French spelling of each, and it's Marjorie LaNelle. So that is, and most people call me Margie, and that's fine too. But yeah, that's how I got started. I wrote my first poem in the 7th grade, and that got me bitten by the writing bug. And then I was in the drama club in high school, so that got me into the I got bitten by the acting bug. Now I can't sing, so don't worry about singing. Uh, but um, but yeah, and I've always loved tourism. I've always loved history, but history was so boring in school, and then you had to learn all these dates and times and all that. So as I got older, I raised all three boys, and after they got out of high school, I started concentrating on my writing. And my first book, I've got a series, The History and Mystery of the South Carolina Lakelands. The Ghost Stories of Uptown Greenwood was published in 2016. The Apparitions of Abbeville, which is my most popular book, was written in 2018. And I'm working on one now that will include 4 different towns and cities. It'll be Newberry, Edgefield, McCormick, and 96. So, but I'm also working on another book, Amen times 10. God just wouldn't let me let it go. It's being raised by a Southern Christian mama. So you'll laugh and you'll cry and all that kind of good stuff. So it's basically, it's not an autobiography by any means. It's just little quirks and funny things. And my mama helped make me who I am. So that's what that's about. And I have a children's book. It's a little Christian children's book. Can I, may I please? And so I have that one as well. So I work in different genres, not just in the ghost stories and the paranormal. Mine are mostly about history and mystery, not blood, gut, and gore. Um, Even though some of those stories are included and will be included in my next ghost stories book, because that's just how it is. But yeah, and from the books came a walking tour in Greenwood, the Greenwood Ghost Tour. A few years later came a 12-seater shuttle bus, and now we have a tour bus called, and it's Hourglass Tours. And yesterday we launched a podcast called History, Mystery, and Sweet Tea. So I'll be traveling around to towns all over the place. We'll learn a little bit of history, we'll learn a whole lot of mystery, and then we'll find out who's got the best sweet tea. So that brings you forward to where I am right now.
I love that. They, you're very busy, and I had the pleasure of meeting you last year at the Hey Good Meal Paracon, and that was where I had purchased the books that you had there, and absolutely love them. I love finding books that are stories about specific areas, and we'll talk a little bit about your podcast and all of that. But let's kind of jump back a little bit on the books and the specific area that you talk about. You're there in what, the central and northern South Carolina area.
It's in the upstate of South Carolina, Columbia and above. So it's actually like what they call the Piedmont, but it is the upstate of South Carolina. For my tours and books, the books are Greenwood County and Abbeville County, right now. And then we're also going to cover, like I said, Newberry 96, which is in Greenwood County. Newberry is in its own county, McCormick's in its own county, and Edgefield is in its own county. So we're going to have 8 books in this series, and this will be number 3. Um, but yeah, the areas, I walked around to every business in Greenwood and said, hey, do you have something odd that's happened? Do you have a ghost story? They either shut the door in my face, try to rebuke the demons out of me, or either they shared things that happened, some of them anonymously, and some of them just did it for entertainment purposes only, they said. But they told me some things that happened, and it was a 68-page book, and it started out to be just a little brochure, a self-guided brochure, and we had enough stories for it to be a 68-page book. Well, when the reviews came back on that, they were going, well, there's not enough research, the stories are too short, and there are no pictures. Therefore, the apparitions of Abbeville was born. More research, longer stories, and photos. So we're on the right track with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and and I love that because just in the book itself, I mean, you really do dive into the stories. The thing I like about it is they're short enough that they capture your attention, and but they're long enough that you do get a good story with this, and I love the fact that you have incorporated pictures in with the books as well.
Well, the A Penny for Your Thoughts, the picture, it's either on page 18 or 19. There was no one in the house when I went to speak to the lady. I had to wait on her to arrive to tell me about her story. And there is a lace curtain hanging up. If you'll look, do you see it?
Hmm.
Yep, look in the top left-hand corner of that. Do you see it?
I do.
I do.
Sorry, I was trying to mute, so I didn't echo. I do. I mean, and I feel like I can see it even clearer, looking at it here through the computer. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah. And there was no one in the house at the time. And we also have, when I uh, wrote about the church cemetery, there is where the sun is glowing through between the headstones and everything. It appears to be, now whether it's pareidolia or whether it's an apparition, it appears to be a soldier sitting on a horse as well. So there's a lot. I would put Abbeville, South Carolina against Savannah and Charleston any and every day. It's just that concentrated.
I would believe that, especially in that area. I've heard a lot of great stories coming from South Carolina, and I feel like, yeah, up in the New England area and the Northeast, yes, that's old history and everything. But to me, nothing beats a good Southern ghost story. And here in the South, we're full of it. Can you give any history there on Abbeville to tell us sort of why that area kind of stacks up against big, major hitters like Savannah and Charleston?
Absolutely. Abbeville is known as the birthplace and the deathbed of the Confederacy. Now, they had a lot to do with the Revolutionary War as well, but more concentrated, I think, is the birthplace and deathbed of the Confederacy. The birthplace because you have Secession Hill, where back in 1866, I think it was in November, well, it was earlier than that. It was in the early 1800s, a little earlier than 66, I think. But anyway, in the 1800s, there was Secession Hill, and over between 2 and 3 thousand people showed up to say they wanted to keep South Carolina the way it is, you know. And back then, in those days, compared to today, that might be a quarter of a million people, and then they had to travel horse and buggy, and things like that. So Secession Hill was where they first met to secede from the Union. And so that's why they call it the birthplace. And whereas other towns, cities, states are taking down Confederate monuments, they're going up in Abbeville. I mean, in the last 10 years, there's been, I know, at least 4 new monuments that went up on Secession Hill. And the reason it's called the deathbed of the Confederacy, there's a mansion there called the Burt Stark Mansion, and that is where Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederacy, not of the United States, but he drew up the papers to surrender and to end the Civil War, or the war between the states, or the Confederate War, or the War of Northern Aggression, or the war between the North and the South. It depends on who you speak with in Abbeville because that's a touchy subject with them. But and we have stories about the Burt Stark Mansion. Some of the family members are related to Jimmy Carter, and the lady passed away, Mary Stark Davis. She was a twin. There's a whole story there, but she kept up with the house and kept it in great condition and preserved the history until she died at the age of 102. She was over 100 years old, and she still resides there, though. That's what's so interesting. And then we have the Painted Lady, where the high ranking officer stayed in the Steamboat House beside the Burt Stark Mansion. We have the McGowan House. We have the Abbeville Opera House, which was the State Theater. We have the Eureka Hotel, which is now known as the Belmont Inn. This is the sixth courthouse on the square that Abbeville has had. They were in different locations and for different reasons. Anyway, this is the sixth one. And in the old bank building where the Chamber of Commerce and Welcome Center is, there's a gentleman that walks around whistling, and people can see him, but they can't hear him. And the Paranormal Society of Savannah investigated that back in, I don't know if it was March or July. I think it was July, the last one we did. No, it was back in March. And in the vault, I mean, we got a lot of EVPs. Let's just leave it at that. Very interesting EVPs. And so that doesn't even start to tell you the stories in Abbeville, but that's just, the top tip of the iceberg.
That's a lot, though. I mean, that's fantastic. Do you find that the people that live there in Abbeville embrace their haunted history? Or I know you said when you asked some of the businesses and stuff, people looked at you like you had 3 heads, because that's common, and that's also something that does not just common in, business alike, but especially here in the South, there either tends to be people that are just really into it, or people that's like, oh, that's not appropriate. But do you find that as a majority, the people in the area really embrace that history?
They embrace the history. They don't always embrace the haunted history. Um, this is what is so interesting. We not only live in the Bible Belt here, we live in the buckle of the Bible Belt. So, I always tell everybody when I go to speak somewhere, look, I do not worship Satan. I'm not trying to conjure up anything. I just share the stories with you, the history and the mystery. And you'll always have somebody that'll say, I don't believe in all that ghost stuff. And I say, and that's okay. And then they'll look around and say, but let me tell you what happened to me. Everybody has an experience that they can't explain, or something that's happened, or something angelic. Or an experience with a loved one who's passed on. So none of us know because we haven't been on the other side yet. But I'm just the storyteller and the writer and the tour guide. So I'm very intrigued by everything. And I know there's more people on the other side of the veil than on this side of the veil, and I've, you know, I say you're clairvoyant if you know stuff. You're clairaudient if you hear stuff. You're clairsentient if you smell stuff. And then there's people that annoy you, and those are the clairvoyants. So, but I have fun with what I do. Um, this is me, like it or not. This is what I do, and I work. I've worked and met with so many new people. I mean, Brandon and the Cooper through the Haygood Mill, and I met you there. And I met Rex Nielsen there, the automatic artist, and he is phenomenal when he does his meditations and then they draw what they see. I mean, it's just, you'll have to experience it. I can't even explain it. And then Lee Brown and I have known each other since we were in infant diapers, So our mothers were best friends in school, and I did a project with her last night and working on another one. So good people. We have good people in our strange little circle. Strange but yet wonderful.
Amen to that. I mean, we definitely, I've met some of my best friends and some of the best people here in the paranormal, and it's just it's a different group, and I love the open mindedness of it, and I love the fact that you've got these people out there that are pursuing their dreams and their passions, and either trying to learn more about the paranormal, either through a scientific approach or preserving the history by using the paranormal. There's so many different avenues that we can use this for, and I love that. So I do want to, kind of transition in. You were talking about being the storyteller. So these ghost tours and these walks and stuff that you do, are they centered in Abbeville, or do you have them in different areas? And you had mentioned you'd gotten a good vehicle for this. So where do you all travel to? And I'm going to pull up your site as you're talking about it.
Okay. Well, when the Ghost Stories of Uptown Greenwood came out, we established the Greenwood Ghost Walk. And we don't just go around and go, and that's haunted, and that's haunted, and this is haunted, and that's haunted. What I did is I found the characters in my book and wrote a script, and then they dress in period clothing. So as we go down through this 2.5, 3 block area in Uptown Greenwood, nobody jump scares you or anything, or jumps out with a chainsaw. It's not like that. It's historical figures. Um, like Rebecca Cotton is from Edgefield. We have a fantastic actress that portrays her. We have a Revolutionary War soldier, a Civil War soldier. We have Litriana even dressed up last year with her books, characters from her books. And they just go down and they tell the story. So they're learning the history without even knowing it through the mystery. So that's the walking tour. and that is live street theater. And it's very popular. That's my most popular tour of all time. Now, when we got the shuttle bus, we have a 12-seater shuttle bus, but when they do a tour, only 11 people can ride unless one's in a wheelchair because it is ADA compliant. But we go around Abbeville, Greenwood, 96, and Newberry on different days, and we teach them the history and the mystery of these towns. We can do church tours, we can do girls night out tours, we can do birthday parties, we can do destination tours. We've taken a group to Hey Good Meals just to see the petroglyphs. So it's almost unlimited as to what we can do, and I get to dress up. I get to be whoever I want to be, so that's where the acting comes in. And I've already had 3 or 4 people to send me videos on Messenger saying, "This is a character that I found out about, and I wrote this, and can I be in your ghost tour and you're on your ghost walk?" So that's what we do there. And it's also opened up the door, Miranda, to being a speaker. With my books having an educational component about the history, I've spoken at 3 different high schools, a middle school, and with my children's book, I've been to 4 elementary schools, and 2 daycares. So I don't stick with just one genre. I just love to write, and I love to travel. I love to meet new people, and I like to act and become whoever I want to be.
I love that. And what a great way to be able to share your passions for all of those different things and be able to do that as your job. Because I know when I was reading your bio, you were talking about that you'd left your 9 to 5, and I can really identify with that because working. I spent 21 years in corporate America, and being able to kind of step out of that, which I feel like was probably going to send me to an early grave. It I feel as though to be able to combine for me that history, that paranormal, the motorcycling, all of those different things, and being able to actually do that as my job has just really been a dream come true, and really not something that I had imagined would become that. So I've got to say kudos to you for doing it, and also doing it well. I saw on there the awards that you've won for what you're doing, and your passion really shows through.
Oh, well, thank you for your kind words. But I also believe that I don't just have to work on becoming the person I'm created to be, but it's my job to help other people become who they were created to be. And one example of my little children's book in the back, I have 3 blank pages, because when I go somewhere and teach the little kids and read the book, and then I teach them what an author is, I teach them what an illustrator is. And there's 3 blank pages in the back so they can become an author or or an illustrator or both, and write their own little book in the back. So, it's about helping each other, networking, helping people become who they were created to be, and I really think that's why we're here on earth.
I love that, and that's wonderful. That's such a cool way to do that with your books, and such a great mindset to have. Looks like we have a question from Bob. And again, I just want to remind anyone, if you do have any questions for Miss Marjorie here, if you will put those over here in the comment section, we'll get those pulled up. But Bob says, have you found that dressing in period clothing stirs up paranormal activity more than normal, like a walking, talking trigger object?
Yes, no, maybe. And I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but yes, because I become that person. And if they can relate with that, this in the spirit world, then yes. Sometimes no, because we laugh and cut up so much that we're not even there to do that. And maybe that makes me stop and think. So, um, like I get my costumes and everything and period clothing from like Amazon. So it's not authentic material, it's not authentic this and that and the other. But thank you for that question. That is an awesome question. But I guess I would say Yes, because I'm telling you, when I'm in character for something, and we don't usually break character, the ghost actors, and when we're in character, it's almost like we take a step back in time or take a step through the veil. And we've got one foot in. You know how they say you got one foot in the grave and one foot out? Well, that's not what I mean, but the analogy is one foot on the other side of the veil and one foot on this side of the veil, and you almost feel like you become that person. And if you're an empath like I am, then the answer is yes, overwhelmingly yes. um so after I thought about that, yeah, that's a great question, Bob. I think so. That's a good point.
Yeah, and again, thank you, Bob. That is a good question. I know I started dressing in period attire for my tour there at Rugby because I talk about the Victorian morning practices. So I do my walk in a Victorian morning dress, and it's challenging on these hot days when you have 90-degree weather and you're walking around and just the attire. But there's something about it, you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about going into character and just going into that time frame. And to me, if it doesn't trigger the spirits, it, at least I can tell you, puts me in a different frame of mind. And it's just so much fun doing these tours whenever it just adds that little extra element. So I know exactly what you're saying on that.
Yeah, exactly. You put it perfectly. And yeah, now that I'm thinking about it and we're talking about it, yes, Bob, it does. It can be used as a trigger object, not only just the dressing and the costumes and the period clothing or a period attire, but the mind frame too, like Miranda said, because you think, oh, if I were living back then, this is what I would do, and this is what I would do. Now, what is really a little unnerving, because I don't get spooked very often, but what's a little unnerving is when you're dressed like that and you have deja vu. So, you know, and I can't wait to come and visit your jail and everything. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. And I don't know, we just got a pouring rain coming down here. I don't know if people can hear that. I think it's hailing on the roof. That was so unexpected. So hopefully the internet does not go out or anything. But yeah, we would love to have you as a guest over here, and hope that if you're in the area, that you'll definitely come and check out the jail. The jail's about 20 minutes from Rugby there, so hopefully you'll come check it out. Now, do you do paranormal investigating yourself?
Back when my youngest son graduated high school, because kids can be cruel, I never talked to my children a lot about paranormal and all that. But when I was 41, I came out of the paranormal closet, is what I call it. So I had had experiences far back as when I was 6 years old, and my mother, being a devout Christian, took me to my grandma. They sat me on the kitchen table and laid hands on me and said, "You don't entertain spirits. You don't do this. You don't do that." So I subdued it, even though I had experiences all my life. I wouldn't talk about it until I was 41. And since then, and I'm 58 now. So that's been what, 17 years? So, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot what the question was. I was just going back in my mind to when that happened. So, what was your question again? I'm sorry.
Let's see here. Um, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember exactly what I had asked either. I think I was asking if you investigated, if you actually investigate now.
Yeah, when I would investigate, I have had an EMF meter, I have dowsing rods, and I have had one of the recorders that I could never work. I'm not that I was top 10 graduate in my college, but I cannot remember how to work an EVP recorder. But anyway, I usually would do the walkthrough. and I would either write down or they would record me walking through and whatever I picked up and sensed because I didn't want to know anything about the location. And so I just did the walkthroughs, and then at the end they would compare it to any evidence they got, and then they would match it up. So that was my part, and I love to ask the questions during the EVP sessions. And I also like to do spirit photography. If I sense something, and I'm not saying I'm all that, everybody can do this, but if you feel something, or I have what I call a confirmation chill. It's from my middle finger. I'm not shooting y'all a birdie, but my middle finger on my left hand all the way up to the base of my neck. If I give someone a message or someone gives me a message that's supposed to be relevant to me, that's my confirmation chill. And same thing if I feel something or sense something, or I feel like I walk through a spider web and there's no spider web there, I start taking pictures. And I've got some interesting spirit pictures.
Interesting. That seems to be the case with some people that we've had at the jail as well. That it's been interesting if when they've caught some really cool photos, half of them have said, I just felt like I needed to take a picture or I got some type of confirmation. One of them that caught one of the best shadow figures we've ever had there at the jail, just clear in front, was a lady who had never investigated before. And she was on a guided ghost hunt, and she said she just had the feeling that she needed to take those 3 pictures in a row. And sure enough, before the tour was over, she came in and she said, I need to show you this. And it was just on a regular DSLR camera. And she said, I need to show you. I think I may have caught something. And clear as can be, in the last picture, this 7 foot tall shadow figure.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I am a believer. And being raised a devout Christian, I used to think for so many years, and I tormented myself that I had to choose between being a Christian and being interested in the paranormal. I mean, I struggled for years, Miranda, with that. But I know now that I don't have to choose, that I am who I am, and I am created with gifts, as is everyone. It just depends on what you do with them.
That's 100% true. I mean, I'm the same way. Raised Christian, and been in church all my life. My faith is something that is extremely important to me. Even today, it's something, and personally, I feel that, and I've believed in the paranormal all my life as well. But my faith has been strengthened through some of these paranormal experiences. And that's what I always tell people, because we did fight that battle whenever we were trying to open our locations. It really wasn't as big of a battle in Rugby because we were able to show what we've done with the jail. But in our presentations to the mayor to be able to open and to do this, and we have that conversation nearly every day when people come in, and especially if they're from the area or if they're Christian, and that is something I can tell from conversation, that's something a lot of people struggle with, that either have special gifts, or spiritual gifts, or that have an interest in the paranormal. And the two can go hand in hand. The two, for me personally, the two do go hand in hand. And like I said, for me, it's been something that's actually strengthened my spiritual walk. So I'm glad to hear of someone else that has either had the struggle or that has kind of found peace in a way to deal with that.
Oh, I concur. I agree 100%. And that's where my protection comes from. I know, where the gifts came from. I know where the protection comes from. I know there's a lot more out there than closed minded. Um, I don't want to say closed minded doctrine, but there's, so many doctrines and so many different denominations and everything. And, I, you know, it is what it is, and I have a personal relationship, and that's what matters to me, and that's where my protection, strength, faith all comes from. And I'm not ashamed to say that, but I can also see and hear things that other people can't, and that's not a curse, that's a blessing and that's a gift. So yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Did did you find in time that, in talking to your family, I don't know if, I know you said you suppressed it because of, people sitting you down and saying that that was not correct. Did you find in research, because one of the things that I've heard over time is when you're talking to people, especially people, so I'm 44, and I've found that people that are right around my age will say that maybe they've experienced stuff. Their mom said, "Hey, you don't talk about this." And then, but when they went to researching, their grandparents were the ones who were supportive, or they find when they look back through their familial lines that there were others even further back that maybe had spiritual gifts and stuff. Did you find that to be the case at all in your family line?
Yes, and especially most recently because I just got my Native American card. My maternal grandfather, and my fourth or fifth great grandmother was a medicine woman, an herbalist, medicine woman, midwife, um, etc. And those people who were burned in Salem, they were healers, and they were using what God put on the earth to heal people, and they were burned at the stake. So we have to go back to find out, okay, who were the indigenous people? What did they do? And what did God provide? Because I believe there is a cure for cancer, every type of cancer. There's a cure for every ailment here on the earth, and it doesn't go through the pharmaceutical companies. Now, I do take medicine every day for diabetes and blood pressure and thyroid. But with that being said, I'm just saying there's so many other, I'm not going to say doors, but windows that have been just slammed shut. And, but through my family, I have family members who call me the crazy ghost lady. They call me the crazy witch lady. They call me the white witch. They call me uh, the weirdo of the family. I've got one uncle that says, my niece is a witch. Go ask her whatever you need. And I'm like, oh, Lord, Jesus, help me. But anyway, so ignorance is bliss, and education, knowledge is power. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, Jesus healed people, and he was the Son of God. And I have to say that. And I believe that with all my heart. But he also gave people gifts to help other people. Maybe we can't make the blind to see again, but we can help them through their times of trouble, and we can be there for them. And if being called the crazy ghost lady or the white witch of the family or the weirdo, or, well, we don't want you to go on the church trip because we're scared you're going to talk about ghosts, then that's okay, because they'll say there's only one ghost and that's the Holy Ghost. But, even when Jesus was walking on water, the disciples said, Master, Master, is that you? For we did not know it was you. And he said, it is me, for I am not a ghost or apparition or specter or whatever version you're reading, So, yeah, so I'll just leave it at that because I'll get on this pedestal and soapbox and go on and on and on. But to answer your question, my family, I had somebody call me, a second cousin call me yesterday, and she says, I just need some advice and da 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 da. I've had a member of the family call me and say, hey, my child is seeing things and hearing things. And we did the research in the house, and there was the person that the child described that died in the house. So I believe it runs in bloodlines as well. I know my middle child who no longer lives on earth. I know he was very gifted, as is his daughter, who's 7 years old. So we have to support and help each other out. I choose to do that not only metaphysically, but also through the Christian faith. So I still have my faith.
I love that. And there's nothing better at times than being able to, because I'll get scripture quoted to me about, not entertaining the spirits, and going back into, Leviticus, and the different chapters of the Bible talking about not to, associate with the prophets, the psychics. Yep, all of that. But it's always great to go back and be able to quote scripture back as well, because one of the places that I forget just how many times ghost is mentioned in the Bible. And and looking at all of this, like I said, it's a different way of looking at it. And again, that's a whole different topic for a whole other show.
But in there it does say spirits roam the earth, but being taught in organized religion, a lot of times they consider a spirit a demon, and that's it. Not that spirits roam the earth. I don't think people give God enough credit, because I've seen my mother in dreams. I've seen my son in dreams. I've seen people I don't even know in dreams, with messages for other people. And they'll say, "Oh, do you remember you told me this 5 years ago?" And I'll go, "No," because once I give a message, that was your message, not mine. I don't remember what I told you, and I can't repeat what I told you, because that was for you and only you. But yeah, I had one lady come to me in a dream, and she was standing beside my bed, and she kept saying, "I need you to go tell my preacher this. I need you to go tell my preacher this." Now, he was a Pentecostal preacher, so I'm sitting here going, okay, so he's going to think I'm a Fruit Loop, and the biggest Fruit Loop ever. So I went in there, made an appointment. He said, "Hey, child, how is your husband? How are the children?" I said, "Fine." He says, "Well, what is troubling you today?" I said, "Well, so and so will not let me sleep." "Well, she passed away and she's in heaven." I said, "Yes, sir. I know that, and I believe that. But I know I cannot sleep because she wanted me to come and tell you this." And he said, "Well, what is that?" And I told him. And I mean, Miranda, it was nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with God, nothing to do with the paranormal. It was as weird. I don't even remember exactly. It was weird as a purple polka dotted elephant jumped over a blue fence. I mean, it was just weird. And he slammed his hand on his desk and he jumped up. And if you know what Pentecostal is, he started shouting. Nobody in the office but him and me. And I'm sitting over here on the other side of the thing and of his desk. And then he goes back and sits down. He turns. He like, "Who told you to say that?" And I said, "I'm telling you, this lady told me to bring you that message." And he said, "Before she died, I prayed with her. And as a preacher, I'm not," we don't say pastor here, we say preacher. And he said, "As a preacher, I am not supposed to doubt heaven. But I leaned down and told her if and when she got to heaven to bring me that message back." And that was the message. And then he gets up, comes around to the other side of the desk, lays hands on me, and tries to rebuke the demons out of me. So, needless to say, I didn't go to church for 3 or 4 years. And then I saw him in Dollar General one day, about 4 years later. He said, "If you don't," and he came up behind me and said it in my ear. This is a preacher. He said, "If you don't get your butt back in church, I'm gonna sick so and so on you." To me, that was sacrilegious. And I just, so that is the type of turmoil that when you're a Christian and you also have gifts that God has given you and you try to utilize it to help other people, um, that is the chastisement that you get. But, I couldn't explain how I knew what he said in her ear, you know, but yeah. So that's one experience that I'll never forget.
Yeah, I mean, that's truly unforgettable. I mean, you would kind of think if he had the, I guess, had the gumption to say that to her, to ask her to say this to you, that that wouldn't be the response, unless that was just sort of, I don't know, unless he was truly taken aback and surprised, and maybe essentially, could you say that could cause him to maybe essentially question his own belief system, maybe because this happened because he was unexpected of it?
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. My daddy was a Baptist and my mama was a Pentecostal, so I tell everybody I'm a Baptist Costal, and I've been called everything. I've even been called a ghost of Costal. But I do love Jesus, I believe. And I don't know. I don't find it humorous, but I might as well laugh because it happens. People make fun of you, people judge you, and you think you've got to either choose this or choose that whenever it all is together. It's part of me and who I was created to be. And so many people are awakening now. And I have to I believe that when the Bible was brought over, that when it was interpreted by the European men, that it was changed in some ways to be a control thing. And the same as burning witches. People think of witches as um, the Wizard of Oz witch, the green one, and big ugly warts on their nose and everything. And what they were referring to as witches were healers and people who knew about herbs and cures and all. And that's what's so sad about it. Hollywood has definitely messed up a lot of stuff.
And people fear what they don't understand. That's one of the big things is people tend to, and then you do have a group of people, so while they fear that what they don't understand, they don't want to take the time. And we see this with today's society, with all the witch hunts that we have in today's society. Not to get into all that, but because they fear what they don't understand, they don't want to dig deeper to try to understand what they fear, to get better understanding of it, and maybe learn a little bit more. They might realize at that point that there's not really anything to fear, or it's not as bad as they thought. But to kind of tag on to what you were saying about the witches, really, when you look at a lot of the early Appalachian people, they did have to live off the land. They came from other countries, other cultures, and they were growing up in this area here in East Tennessee, and your area in South Carolina, North Carolina, North Georgia, growing up in those areas were hard. And you had to, they leaned on their faith and they leaned on their understanding of the land. And so a lot of the early people, and this is something I actually talk about on my tour at Rugby, is that a lot of the people, especially the Appalachian natives, were thought of as the buzzword today as a granny witch, but because they did know about herbs, knew about healing, and also combined that with the Bible and used signs and omens, they were thought of as witches because it was something that they didn't understand.
Or they weren't taught, and it was accepted until the Europeans came over. My grandfather, my Native American grandfather, he was from Del Rio, Tennessee. And but yeah, and yeah, I just recently found out he would run moonshine and other stuff. Now he's been gone for 40 years, but he would run moonshine and no, I can't say moonshine. He said you never call it moonshine, it's white lightning. So he would run white lightning and all that. And and way back when they would do what is it? Whiskey and rye and honey and lemon for a baby's cough. And nowadays they would lock you up if you gave that to your child. So and then ginger roots making a big comeback. And so I hear so many people say ginger root, ginger root, ginger root, ginger root. But and I laugh because I hear so many people say that. But and this is another thing. Uh, Even 10 years ago, when we were doing essential oils and crystals and things like that, and doing guided meditations. Oh, I don't want a part of that. Y'all are going to hell. Well, guess what? I went to a few months back, a women's church group that has essential oils. you know. And I'm not here to be on this big religious kick. That's not what my purpose is, but it is like, let's utilize what God has created and provided for us and use it in the right way. Um, but yeah, it's it's a crazy world that we live in.
Absolutely. And that's the thing though. It's not about religion. It's one of those things on my show, like we'll talk about anything. I do tend to stick away from politics just because that's so divisive. But I do feel, and some people don't necessarily feel that religion has a part in the paranormal. For me personally, and I don't know if I do think religion plays a part in it. I think spirituality plays a bigger part, but our religion and our belief system is what shapes the way we look at, or for most of us, especially here in the South, it shapes the way that we look at, the afterlife. And so I do think that by the way some of us do things, it is based on our religious beliefs. And for you to say that you suppressed the way you looked at your spiritual gifts, uh, that's a very common story. And so I think that it is a great topic for conversation, especially in what you and I are talking about, because I think that that shaped you and the way that you do things. And I love how you have combined them.
Well, I am me and that's it. And one day my daddy asked me, he said, Margie, he said, I raised all three of you kids, your brother, you, and your sister. Your mom and I raised you all the same. And you're the only one that talks about all this ghost stuff and all. And I said, well, Daddy, I can't help what I experience. I mean, even when I was little, they took me and made sure I was okay, because I was seeing things and hearing things. And I'm okay. I don't need medication for that. Um, but about 5 years ago, my daddy, we were going somewhere and he was in the car with me. He said, I want to tell you something. The night my pa Bob died, there were 10 kids in his family, and all the boys stayed in one room because it was a small house and they were poor growing up. But he said the night that Pa Bob died, I saw a female angel with a long pink gown come through my closet door, look around, smile at me, and then she went back into the closet. So everybody has something that um, has happened that they can't explain. God sends comforters to us, and I don't believe they give God enough, you know. I honestly believe He lets loved ones come back and visit, whether it's in a vision, in a dream, or in a message, or I can't explain it because I'm not that knowledgeable about it, but I just know it happens.
I wholeheartedly believe with you on that. And we've got some great comments over here in the comment section. Please keep those coming if you have any questions. We will be wrapping up here pretty soon. So if you do have any questions, and as Ronnie says, I do want to highlight this comment. Yes, Pat O'Keefe, we have had her as well as Misty from the Connor sisters on the show, and that is true. They do tell the truth of the Appalachian Witch, and it is about healing. So, if you haven't seen that episode, we did check that out, and definitely check out their stuff. I do want to tie in. You mentioned your podcasts that you do, and I do want to definitely kind of talk a few minutes about that. Tell us, you mentioned, and it's talking about the best sweet tea, and the history and the mysteries. Tell us just a little bit more about that, and also tell us where people can listen and find more information on it.
Okay, it is through the All Access Network TV. Letriana Brown has started her own network company, and it's part of the All Access Network TV. I don't know if I said that properly or not. Um, my producer is Gwen Johns. She does it as a hobby. But what I do is I go to different towns, and if you've got some towns, shoot me a message. I go to towns and I say, okay, I want to know the history. So I share the history of that town. Then I want to know the mystery. Did they see Bigfoot? Have they seen an alien? Are there odd lights? Are there ghosts? Are there certain superstitions about the Appalachian Granny Witch? Something. So we learn the history, a little bit of history, a whole lot of mystery, and then we find out who has the best sweet tea. And then we share that with you guys. It's every Wednesday night. It's Eastern Standard Time, 5:45 to 6:45. We're starting out with 1 hour, and it's on YouTube through Family Spirit International, and that is through the All Access TV network or network TV. So we'll have the link up next week, and you're gonna like where I go this week.
I love it. Now, do you physically go to those locations while you're there?
Hmm. Yes. In South Carolina, my bus is registered through the state of South Carolina. I can go anywhere in South Carolina. The ORS number is registered. But I mean, I'm coming to Tennessee. I think Tennessee is the most beautiful state I've ever been in. I've gotten 8 North Carolina stories and about 16 Georgia stories just today after last night's show. So Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, South Carolina, and since this is what I do now, I will be, staying in local beds and breakfasts, promoting them, promoting the dinners, promoting this. Whoever says the sweet tea, I'm diabetic, so somebody will have to judge. That takes that weight off my shoulders. I don't have to judge the sweet tea, but yeah, we're gonna find out who has the best sweet tea. And Summerville, South Carolina, if you did not know, their claim to fame is that was the very first place they put sugar in tea.
I love that. I love that little twist. You see a lot of booze and brews type things. I love that you're incorporating the sweet tea since that's our native drink around here, and definitely looking forward to checking out that, and definitely looking forward to having you over here in Tennessee. I couldn't agree with you more about the fact that this is probably, I think, the most beautiful state in the area. And I gotta say, East Tennessee, we there is a vast difference between East, Middle, and West Tennessee. And you come on over here into East Tennessee, up where we're at on the Cumberland Plateau, and I can guarantee you some of the most beautiful views, some of the best home Southern cooking, and some of the just most amazing people that you can find. So we'd love to have you over here in this area.
Oh, I would love to come and visit. And thank you so much for considering having me on your show. I really appreciate it. I love the networking, I love the promotion, but most of all, I really enjoy getting to know you better.
Well,
Well,
thank you, Marjorie. I appreciate that. I enjoyed chatting with you. I know we chatted for quite a while there at Hey Good Meal, and then of course, I was working my booth solo, and I think you were as well. And we all had speaking engagements, and it was just a great event that Brandon Cooper and those folks put on. I mean, they just did a great job, Supernatural Inc., putting on that and brought people in from all over the country. There was all regions that were represented, and so it was wonderful to get to meet you at that. Now, if folks want to follow you, we've got your stuff in the show notes. We've got your event company, and we've been kind of showing all that as well as your books. Why don't you take the last bit of the show to tell people where they can follow you, purchase your books, and where they can find more information? Because I know, folks, I can't tell you enough. These are great books. I got these at the convention, and I'm so glad I did because I learned some great things about the area in South Carolina there. And you're definitely going to want to check her out and maybe catch some of her tours if you're in the area. So go ahead and plug away,
plug
Marjorie.
away, Marjorie. Okay. Well, you can get all three books, the two ghost story books and my children's book. All you have to do is go to Amazon.com, and in the search bar, just put author Marjorie LaNelle and all three books will pop up. My goal this month is to sell 100 books, no matter which ones they are, and we've already sold 19. So thank you all for that. And thank you all for taking time to listen to Miranda's show. And you can also find me. I just joined TikTok, and I'm learning to navigate through TikTok. And it's under Hourglass Tours. And then my Facebook page is Hourglass Tours LLC. And then Instagram is hourglass.tours. So everything's Hourglass Tours, and we haven't done the history, mystery, and sweet tea yet. We did our first initial show last night to introduce the show itself and what to expect. So this coming up week, even though it's week 2, it's going to be our very first history, mystery, and sweet tea show. So please support it. We're always welcoming sponsors. My sponsors now are the Historical Society of 96, Vampire Penguin, Rex Nielsen, the Automatic Artist, Paranormal Society of Savannah, and even Pros with Letriana Brown has helped out. So, and with you having me on the show, thank you so much. That's a sponsorship as well too, because the most valuable thing that people can give is their time.
That's right.
That's right. So I thank you.
That's exactly what I say every week because, the fact that people choose to spend that time sitting here conversing back and forth, listening and hopefully learning something and meeting new people from the show, it is so valuable. And I can't thank you all over there in the chat room enough. Definitely go support our content creators and show some love. Marjorie, like I said, I know I've got you muted, and I appreciate you bearing with us as I go back and forth here. But I did see we've got Al Cooley. He has a really good podcast that he does, and I know he said on here that he would love to have you on his podcast and Ghosts in the Valley there out of Ohio. And so, if anyone is interested in having you on their show, are you available for speaking engagements or for as a show guest on other shows?
Those. Absolutely. I love networking. I love promotion, and I will do the same for those who do for me. And you can drop me a private message, or I can give you my phone number. It's on everything. It's 864 321 2695. And I'll say that one more time. Area code 864 321 2695. And you can text me, you can call me, and we'll go from there.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again. We do have these, as I said before, we do have these links in the show notes. So, guys, go over and check her out. And definitely thank you all for watching tonight. Like I said, if you want to join us for another live investigation, follow on the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page, YouTube channel. We'll probably be we may be live also with Ghost Biker when we do our live investigation at the jail on Sunday night. We're still figuring out the time because we may end up doing it at the same time as when Richard Ellis would have been shot. Otherwise, it'll probably be anywhere between 7 or 9. So just stay tuned for that. I'm double checking my calendar here because I want to make sure that I have who's going to be on next week. We're really, really excited. We've got guests. We're booking up until the season release, season 7 premiere of Ghost Biker Explorations, which will drop all through the month of October every Tuesday night, and then a follow-up episode where we talk about it on Thursday nights. All episodes this season are going to be live, just like they were last year. So you'll be able to investigate along with us. And so my next week's guest is going to be Miss Mary Lynn Bast, and she's going to have Sidekicks Paranormal on here. I know they're doing a lot of really cool things, so she's going to be on there next week. Hope that you guys will plan to tune in then. But if you are looking for something to do before, we will have a couple different opportunities. We will have that live on Sunday night. We will also have we will be sharing the release. The Appalachian Storyteller was at the jail and he did a special video and interview session with us. And so that's going to come out on Saturday night. So we'll be sharing that as well. So again, hope you guys will tune in for that. But thank you again. And I hope that if I don't see you before during the live, I hope to see you next week. So thank you again, Marjorie, and thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.